Hello YouTube! I took a ride out to Kingsport, Tennessee on my Tiger 1050 a few weeks ago, and the folks at Kingsport Cycles were kind enough to let me take a new Tiger 800 out for a spin.
You're good to go.
I had my camera on me, so I figured I'd take a shot at making a real review. Most of my experience for this kind of bike is based off my own Tiger 1050, and I'll be using it as a basis for comparison, as these are the bikes that I rode back to back that day. Okay, for starters, the bike looks fantastic in a very aggressive and mean kind of way. It isn't sexy, but that's not what adventure bikes are all about anyway. Obviously, Triumph built this bike with its sights set on the BMW F800 GS. I prefer the fender beak that comes on the XC, you know, the more aggressive looking off-road one with the bigger tires and wire wheels. Unfortunately, there's nothing to prevent you from adding that beak onto the standard 800. I just think it looks a little funny without the beak, that's all.
Alright, the Tiger 800. I'm pretty excited about this. I haven't read a single bad thing about this bike since it came out. Let's see what it can do.
Anyway, it's very well put together, by which I mean the hardware and the design make for a very solid feel, while appearing polished and refined. The hand controls and button pods are the same as the Street Triple. The brake lever is adjustable for reach, but the clutch isn't. I'm a little disappointed about that. I had them adjust the seat to the taller position. The first thing I noticed when I sat on the bike was the riding position. It's extremely comfortable. Where my 1050 feels big and almost stretches my arms out, the 800 feels nicely neutral. My arms are kind of relaxed, my body's in a nice upright position, not slouching, not leaned back, nothing. It's very, very neutral. So with the seat set high, didn't really have any legroom issues either. It's only 40 pounds lighter than the 1050 at 462 pounds. It feels much lighter and more tossable than that would suggest. I'd say it's closer in feel to my wife's 310-pound TU250 than it is to either of my 500-pound Triumphs. That's a huge plus. You'll have more fun at lower speeds on the Tiger 800 than you can on the 1050, and it's much more noob-friendly. It's going to be much more confident off-road as well, where the extra weight of the 1050 makes it feel very cumbersome. Alright, so the windshield, while it's very small, it's also very effective. The wind ended up hitting me at the bottom of my helmet visor around 60 miles per hour, which is slightly better protection on the 1050, despite the 1050's fairing being quite a bit larger. And as expected, the 1050's larger fairing actually diverts more wind around your legs. Speaking of that, we're coming up to my first niggle here. The 1050 triple engine on my Tiger has enough bodywork around the engine to force hot air from the radiator over or under the block, but away from the rider. The bodywork ends well ahead of the 800's engine, so the hot air from the radiator spills out right onto your shins on either side of the bike. It isn't crazy hot or anything, not really uncomfortable, but it is noticeable coming from a bike with better heat management. Alright, so the power delivery. Compared to a dual sport, it's phenomenal. Compared to the 1050, it's kinda ho-hum. The actual power output of 94 horses is down 20 less than on the 1050. That means with my ass on the bike plus gear, the 800 is pushing hair over 7 pounds per horsepower, where the 1050 is only pushing 6. So what does this mean? Well, snapping open the throttle in first or second gear on the 1050 results in the front wheel either lofting or at least getting very, very light. The 800's front end isn't lifting off the ground without slipping the clutch. The 800 is by no means slow, it's a very quick bike, but it isn't going to scare you when you crack the throttle, which is probably a good thing. Nobody needs scary power when trying to maneuver a 400-pound bike off-road, which, let's admit, that's where the Tiger 800 was designed to spend at least part of its time, even this road-going model. So, enough about how well it will do wheelies. That's not really what the bike was made for. The engine is smooth, it revs smoothly, it sounds good, and it's got a torque curve that resembles that of an electric motor. I mean, it is flat. Right from the get-go, right to the end, very, very smooth. You get pretty much the same amount of torque all the way through in each gear. We should all be so lucky to have such great engines on our bikes. I'm not complaining about that a bit. So the suspension. I really enjoyed it. I felt like the handling and ride were very, very good. But I felt like the damping was kind of getting used up with my 200-pound ass on there. I don't know how much more you can put on without it starting to bounce. The rear preload, I checked it at the end of the ride. I know, I should have checked it first. But it was fairly low, and yet the bike still felt really eager to turn in, and quick maneuvers side to side, very easy and light touch on the handlebar. So I'd say that the rear spring, since it had more preload left, is definitely adequate for a heavier rider and some weekend bags. 2 up even. I don't know 2 up with my 200-pound ass on there, but with someone lighter, yeah, you might be doing okay. 180-pound folks out there, you might be able to put a decent-sized pillion on the back and still have a decent suspension. But here's the rub with all that. The rear preload is the only adjustment available. Given the price of the bike, I'd expect at least some front preload or something, some sort of adjustment. But no, there's nothing. Not even rear damping adjustment. So those inverted gold forks up front, they really aren't much more than eye candy if the ride and handling doesn't suit you. Lastly, ground clearance. I was very surprised when I managed to scrape a peg on the 800. Something I've yet to do on the 1050, and believe me, I've tried. So be ready to hang off the bike if you're going to be attacking corners. Now, is that really a bad thing? What it really says is that I got comfortable with the bike very fast. I was very easy to throw into corners. It went right where I expected it to go. I trusted the brakes. These are all good things. So, scraping a peg on a bike that's made for off-road, or was built to at least look like it's made to go off-road, well, yeah, that's not such a bad thing, is it? Okay, so here's the thing. The Tiger 1050 is $1,800 more expensive than the standard Tiger 800. But because the Tiger 1050 is kind of long in the tooth, it's currently being reduced in price quite a bit. There are a lot of good incentives to buy it, and I've seen them marked down quite a bit. So they're actually cheaper than the Tiger 800, since that Tiger 800 is in such high demand. It's hard to get a good deal on. So right now, if you're looking for a good adventure bike for the street and you're at a Triumph dealership, I don't really think you should go for the standard 800. If you're looking for a street bike, you should go ahead and get the Tiger 1050 and get a real street bike. That's got better brakes, more power, has adjustable suspension, and is a little more comfortable for longer touring. If you're looking for an off-road bike, a real adventure bike to go explore, the unbeaten path with, the Tiger 800 XC is what you want. This Tiger, while it has a 19-inch wheel instead of a 17-inch front wheel, it's not that much better off-road except for the lighter weight and the lesser power. So unless you only plan to go down the occasional dirt road and expect to be able to blast down it, I don't really see any reason to get this bike. Triumph is planning on a upgrade to the 1050. There's been rumors that the next Tiger will be a 1200 model. at which point the difference between the two bikes might be a much wider gap, and then the Tiger 800 might make more sense by itself. But the way I see it right now in this economy and with the current bike selection, I think the Tiger 1050 is still the better bike. I did not ride the XC. I'm not, claiming that the Tiger 800 is not a good bike, because it certainly is a good bike, but it's not as good as the 1050 if you're just looking at the road-going versions. That's my little synopsis. Yeah, I might be a bit biased, but I was really expecting this bike to wow me even more than it did, because I'd read nothing but great things about it. But it really wasn't that much better at being a road-going adventure bike than the 1050. Well, thanks for listening to the review. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate and/or comment on this video. I really appreciate feedback. It's what keeps me coming back here and making more videos.
What do you think?